All right. Welcome back to the Marcus Milione podcast. I have Sean here, and we are lucky to be joined by Kendall Bessent. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
All right. Very good. He is a photographer. He's had work featured in ID Magazine, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Washington Post, BET, Google. The list kind of goes on, and I imagine it'll be much longer by this time next year. So thank you for coming out here.
Of course. Thank y'all for inviting me.
So yeah, photography, and just I feel like any creative space is something that a lot of people are drawn to almost naturally or kind of like in a gifted way. But the way like school and stuff works, it's always like nobody teaches you if it's viable for like a career.
Right.
So back when you, I guess, were in maybe middle school, high school, did you think like, all right, I'm about to be a photographer, and this is going to be my career path, or were you very much like didn't know what you were doing yet?
So, yeah, photography was not on my mind in middle school. I thought I was going to be an architect.
Okay.
I thought I was going to be an architect because since I was a kid, I've been like drawing floor plans and like I wanted to design hotels. I mean, I'm still
That's pretty
will.
niche. Yeah.
I wanted to design hotels and like buildings and houses and things like that. But yeah, I kind of just like fell into photography, like through architecture in a way.
Okay.
So like when I was a kid in Atlanta, my mom, she would like take me around the city because that was my favorite thing to do. Because we lived in the suburbs, like outside of the city. So like going downtown, going to Midtown, I used to have my iPod, so I would just take pictures. And then that was very big, like when Tumblr, like the whole Tumblr era. So I would like always edit the pictures in like very cool ways, and then I would post it on like my Facebook.
Yeah.
And then yeah, like as she noticed I had like a knack for taking pictures. So when I turned 16, she surprised me with the camera, and that was my first camera. So yeah.
What kind of camera was that?
It was a Canon T3i Rebel.
Okay.
It was like a very basic beginner's camera. I still have it to this day. I'm probably gonna give it to my nephew, but yeah.
I was gonna ask, like, do you shoot with it at all? It's almost like a let me see what I can do with this first gift.
That would probably be really cool. I would love to like see if I could do a shoot on it and just see like see what I can do. That would be very fun.
Yeah,
I might try that.
I mean the idea comes to me because I feel like there's photographers that will like pull out those disposable cameras and create some crazy stuff with it. So like for you with a sentimental piece like that to produce a bunch of shots, that'd be really cool in my opinion.
When you started editing back, like how did you get into editing? Because not everybody just falls into editing. You kind of have to seek it out.
Yeah, so it would just be I would go on the App Store, and it would be like Pixelmatic, and like just all these cool photo editing apps, and I would just do like crazy shit.
Yeah, just experiment.
And yeah, like it wouldn't just be pictures of buildings. It would be like pictures of myself. Like I used to like superimpose like a tiger head on me, and like put like cool lines, text, everything. It's literally still all up on my Facebook. It's so embarrassing. I had to like make my Facebook private. But yeah, like I would just like find like all these cool apps and just like edit. Like I remember doing that for like a whole summer, and then I used to like come home from school every day. So like I also loved fashion too. And my way into fashion was like through my big brother. So when he used to go to school, I used to like sneak into his closet and like take outfits. And I knew that he would get home after me. So I used to have like time to put it back. He would never know I wore his clothes. But I used to come home every day after school in middle school, take pictures of myself, edit them in like cool ways, and then post them on Facebook.
Okay.
And yeah, like that's just kind of like I guess where I started like with photography and things like that, and then it just grew after I got my actual camera.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you get your camera. You said you were like 16, something around there.
I was 16.
So as you were, that's kind of the time you're gearing up for college. Were you still like thinking in your head, okay, let's go to school for architecture, maybe?
So I kind of had fell out of love with architecture by the time I turned 16. And I actually went into college as a business major, marketing. And a funny story, I didn't want to take accounting because I hate math.
I don't blame you.
I heard the horror stories about accounting, so I was like, I'm not doing this. So then I changed it to political science.
Okay.
Political science with a concentration in pre-law. And I remember I was in one of my pre-law classes one day, And my professor, she was just like talking about, she was like, if you're considering going to law school, make sure it's like what you really want to do, because it's expensive and it's hard and it's a big commitment. And that same day, I went to my my advisor, and I changed my major to photography. Yeah. So I was like, it wasn't until I got into college that I was like, okay, I can actually see myself doing this. Yeah.
How did your mom react when you were like all bouncing all over the place? Was she like, okay, you got to pick something?
I did not tell my mom I changed my major until after, because I knew like a decision like that, if I would have like, she wouldn't have persuaded me to not change it, but like it was just like I had the strong will to change it then, so it was like nothing else is gonna change my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So-
Wow.
You
No, no.
So like, yeah, you grew up in Atlanta, and you say you drew some inspiration from like the architecture.
Yeah.
What other things did you draw inspiration from, especially like later on as you started to grow up in college
And the
such?
music scene there is crazy.
Music, definitely music, the culture of Atlanta, like just like the rap scene and things like that, but also high fashion. So like when like in middle school, I was very interested, like I said, like very interested in fashion. So my big brother, he kind of introduced me to like different brands. But I kind of took it a step further, where I would like research like brands and designers such as Alexander McQueen, Olivia Roasting, and just like all these different designers who were like popping, like Riccardo Tisci, and various designers. And I would like research like the seasons and the garments.
Wow.
And so I really fell in love with fashion. So when I got into college, of course I didn't have access to like pieces and pulling and stuff like this how I do now. So I kind of like started styling my own shoots, and I met a close friend. His name is Demonte St. Clair in Atlanta, and he has like an archive of like clothes from like all around the world.
Wow.
So when I started pulling pieces from him, that's when I was like, okay, I started, like actually doing shoots. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. So did you feel, was there like an inflection point where you felt that people started taking your work more seriously?
Yes. I would say leading up to summer of 2020. So I used to shoot on a digital camera all the way up until I believe it was like May of 2020.
Okay.
But in May of 2020, I bought my Mamiya RB67, which is a medium format film camera. So I switched strictly to film, and I noticed when I switched to film, my work like got so much better. Like it was
Really?
already good on digital, but switching to film, it just kind of was like the chef's kiss.
Yeah.
So I say that summer, that's like when my work like really took off. Yeah.
And when you say take off, is it like, are you getting picked up? Are you getting more shoots? Are you getting brands that are asking you to like do stuff? How does that work?
It was like more shoots, more features. Still not really the brands aspect. Like it was like a lot more attention on my work, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was reading a bunch online, and you had described your work as unapologetically black.
Yeah.
And do you think that there was like the two related between like the Black Lives Matter movement and like you switching to film and then having that as like your ethos, I guess, like kind of was almost perfect timing?
It almost was. So like during, of course, the summer of 2020, it was a very hectic and traumatic time for like, the black community and the world in general. So instead of me like focusing on, I guess, on the traumatic side of it, I wanted to pay homage and just showcase my people in a positive light, and like almost in a way that we're the art. So I would say that's like my vision during that time. That's like what really, was like the sweet spot for me.
Yeah, that's really cool. I don't know when the shoot was, but there's a shoot, I forget the name, that you did. It's on your website where it's like very strong and like emotional, and there's like blue hues in it with like all the models are wearing gold jewelry. I don't know if you know which one I'm talking about, but I thought the pictures were incredible.
The models are wearing gold jewelry. I have so
Yeah,
many
there.
pictures.
There's probably a lot
There's
of
probably a
models.
lot. Yeah, there's probably a
There's
lot of
probably
that.
a-
But there's.
But I rarely edit in blue, like with the blue tone. So
Mm.
I'll.
Yeah, I was watching
Oh,
one of your.
this one.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah,
that's the
this
exact
was
one
recent.
I'm
This
talking
was
about.
very
Oh, yeah,
recent.
that's very cool.
Yeah, that was for Black Fashion Fair. That was
Those
probably
pictures
my
are
favorite
crazy.
edit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was this set like for that?
So it was literally a canvas backdrop, mylar paper rolled out on the ground, and just like a 3-light setup. It was
Okay.
very simple. Like when I shoot in studio, I'm very simple, and like I don't like the big rigs. Like eventually, I know like once I start shooting like more editorials, I have to work with more equipment. But I don't know that like all of the lighting and like excess, it like kind of like makes me nervous. So I'm like, okay, this is too much going on. So
Yeah.
like I'm very simple when I shoot. But yeah, like the set was simple. The whole idea for the shoot was like very like, so Bibby, he's who started Black Fashion Fair. He was basically like, here's the budget, and he gave me like ideas of like what he wanted to show and like showcase. But I kind of like just ran with it and just like did my own thing with like
Wow.
keeping in mind what he wanted, and we created magic that day. Everyone was like blown away, and it's so crazy. We were shooting alongside Ahmad and Dante, who is a photography duo from Atlanta, but they're like in the top of the industry. So it was crazy to me like to shoot with like in the same studio like alongside simultaneously with people I admire. And yeah, it was an amazing experience.
It's like one of those moments where like, oh shit, like I made it. Like,
Yeah, it was like very full circle because me and Dante, we both went to Georgia State, but he's older than me. So I remember when I was in college at Georgia State, and he was like a senior, or he had like just graduated, but he was coming back and doing a talk. I reached out to him and I was like, hey, like I'm just starting photography. I wanted to know if like I could possibly shadow you or you could mentor me. And he was like, he said, he was like, I don't think I'm that far in my career or like that experience yet to actually mentor someone. I was like, yeah, that's cool. That's understandable. And since then, you know, I've always loved his work. They blew up, but like, yeah, it was like a very big full circle moment for me.
I feel like it's got to give you a ton of confidence, right? 'Cause,
Yeah,
like, now it goes from like your idols to like now you're even playing
like
field.
You're
You're there.
So I remember when I was shooting, and I turned around and both of them were like just looking like they was like, yo, what the fuck, like what is he doing? I'm sorry, can I curse?
Yeah.
All right, yeah, but like they were looking, it was like, yo, like that's crazy. I was like, thank you.
You mentioned that like you had a budget. They gave you some like points that they wanted to emphasize, and then you kind of like had the freedom to do what you want.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that's the way for every shoot.
It's not. So like with more commercial jobs, when I come into a project, they already have like a look, what they want to go for. You're just a photographer that they want to shoot it. And with those jobs, those are like, of course those are like the big jobs like for brands and stuff like that, because brands already have an aesthetic that they have to go with. But I love the shoots where I can come in and bring my own eye and bring, like just, it's basically like do what you want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine.
Like when they trust me enough to like just create freely, I love those.
So when you do get creative freedom, are you picking the models, picking the set, everything, or do you
Most
have help?
times. So like with this shoot, I did have a lot of creative freedom. Like with like talking back and forth with Bibby, who put it together, like I was able to bring in my friend who's a stylist. And then but to start off, I did kind of have like some input with the models. Like I was sending him like selects, but a few of them was like weren't able to do it. So I actually came, and my friend Jordan was one of the models, which was crazy. Like I didn't even know he was gonna be a part of it. So that was like perfect as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I did have a lot of creative input with this one.
That's awesome. So at some point you leave Georgia and move to New York. Now, like, walk me through that thought process, because that's scary for anybody. Had you been to New York before?
So I had been to New York one time before I had moved up here. So I've always wanted to move to New York since I was a kid. Ever since I was a kid, my mom, like, ever since I watched Home Alone as a kid, I was like, I want to move to New York. I want to move to New York. And then I love fashion, and then everything, it just made sense for me. So when the pandemic hit, of course, like school was like virtual. So when the new semester started back, I went into my first day of school, and it was actually a film and darkroom class, and I was so excited to take it. But I was sitting in class and I was like, it just was not, it wasn't hitting how I wanted it to. So I was like, I don't think I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
So, what did I do? I went home. I contemplated for like a few hours. Like literally, I was on my bed. I was like, I already was like had a plan. So that my mom like asked like, how you're gonna do it? Like, what are you
You were
like?
ready
this
for
and
the
that.
question.
Yeah, like I already knew. So yeah, like I went to my mom and I talked to her. I was like, Mom, I really want to move to New York, and of course she believed in me. So she gave me her blessing. And it was also a lot going on at that time. Like my parents, they were getting ready to buy me a new car. And I was like, okay, if I get a car, that's just going to prolong my stay in Atlanta. Like I'm just going to have to stay here. So, yeah, I was like, I'd rather y'all just give me the money and just add it to what I had already saved up from like the summer before. And they did that, and I moved up to New York like a month later.
The confidence to just kind of dive right into New York is
Yeah,
unmatched. Like,
I
dude,
know.
I mean,
That was
especially
like the bravest thing I've ever done. Like,
did you
crazy.
have work lined up, or were you just like, I need to be here to get work?
Yeah, I knew I needed to be here to get work. I knew one person, my friend Susie, who's a hairstylist here. I knew her, and a few months before she had came to Atlanta, we talked, and she was like, if you ever want to come and visit New York, I have a free bedroom. And I remember she said that. So before I even asked my mom, I had reached out to Susie. I was like, is that free bedroom still available? She was like, yeah. I was like, cool, because I'm thinking about moving up there. So we had a whole conversation about that. And so like when my mom was like, who are you going to stay with? I was like, I have a friend, Susie. She lives up there, blah, 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 blah. And yeah, my mom just was like, okay.
So I assume you stayed with Susie. You had this extra money as a buffer from the car.
Yeah.
And then what, you started looking for apartments or?
So no, so I stayed with Susie. So we were roommates for about 4 or 5 months.
Got it.
So you moved in a little bit.
Yeah. So yeah, that was the whole plan. I was gonna come up here and like move in because she had like a free bedroom. We had another roommate too. And we were living in Queens Village during the time, so that was like a commute to the city. But her salon was in Bed-Stuy. So the way I actually got a lot of my first work was through her salon. So Susie, she's like this huge hairstylist. She's incredible. She does braids for everyone. She invented the lemonade braids on Beyonce.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah,
Wow.
so she's iconic.
She's popping then.
Yeah. So I would always come to her salon with her, and I would just chill out up there. She was like, yeah, just come to the shop and, like, meet people. And so different editors, art directors, people of, like, just in the industry will, like, come to her shop to get their hair done. And she'll be like, hey, like, my friend Kendall, like, his work is amazing. I want y'all to meet. And it's so crazy. One day I was up there, and she had a client, and she's actually an editor for Teen Vogue. So it was so crazy. A week before, I had emailed her, and I'm like, hi, I'm Kendall. Like, this is my portfolio. Please keep me in mind for any projects and things like that. And it just so happened a random day I was at the shop, and, like, we were just having a conversation. And then Susie was like, yeah, this is my Kendall. This is my friend Danny. And I was like, wait. I was like, that name sounds so familiar. I was like, Danny. She was like, yeah, she's an editor at Teen Vogue. And I was like, oh my God, I emailed you last week. So, yeah, like, that was crazy. So, of course, Danny, she set up her own shoot with me. Like, we did a personal shoot, and then she referred me to the rest of the Teen Vogue.
Wow.
And that's how I got my first job for Teen Vogue. Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, once you get that first job, and if they like you, then they'll keep, they'll offer your services, and then it grows and grows. Yeah. And sooner or later, you're getting booked left and right.
That actually was not my first big job. Like, when I got into New York, I randomly got an email from Leanne Rattle. She was the photography director at The Cut at the time. And she emailed me like a link to sign up for like a course that she does like with different photographers, like just teaching them like how to navigate the industry, like their portfolio, things like this. But the course was $250. So I was like,
that's kind of weird.
I know. I was like, first of all, I was like, wait, how does she know me? How did she find my email?
And why she email me to pay for something?
Right. And I was like, why did she email me to pay for something? Yeah, so I was like contemplating on should I take the class or not. Like, I was like, should I take the class? Like, because I want to connect with her. But when she emailed me, I was like, okay, I have her email. So I sent her my portfolio. But I ended up signing up for the class, and we talked. It was like, and she was like we really connected on that call. So yeah, we really connected on that call. And then she was like, Kendall, I never, like, the first time me meeting photographers, I never give them a job out the bat, but she was like, I'm going to give you a job.
Oh my
Wow.
God.
And a month later or so, she emailed me. She was like, do you want to photograph Theophilio, who's at the time was an up and coming Black designer. He's a huge designer now. And she was like, do you want to photograph Theophilio for the cut? And I was like, of course. I was like, and it was so crazy because just like a week before, I had met him through Susie at the shop because we had did a photo shoot for Susie, and she was in Theophilio pieces. And just like a month later, I was photographing him for the cut.
Dude,
At Lucian.
Oh my God.
Right, it was crazy.
I'm telling you, like, there's something about this city where, like, if you're like thinking about it or you're like actively pursuing something, stuff just starts to fall into place in the weirdest way. I don't know how to explain it.
It does. It's the magic of New York. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you find that there's like, as a photographer, there's people that try to almost take advantage of your talent in the sense of like, oh, well, we can't pay you, but you get the whole exposure spiel.
Yeah,
like
and
that.
Yeah, I kind of cut that out in Atlanta. Like before I even moved up here, I was like, y'all gonna have to pay me.
Yeah.
Like my work is too good. You gonna have to pay me. Unless it's like a huge artist who I've always wanted to shoot or photograph. But even then, they should be able to pay me.
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
it's very rare I would be like, okay, I'll do it for exposure. But like I haven't done that in like the last year.
I feel like there's a lot of photographers who aren't confident enough to know their worth.
Yeah.
And then they get taken advantage of, and it's not good, I don't think, for the whole industry because people get screwed over, and you can't have that. You need to make money.
Right.
Has social media played a role in anything for you? Like, I'm just curious if you're on TikTok at all.
I'm not on. So I have a TikTok account.
Okay.
I posted one video, but I always tell people, I'm like, TikTok is like the perfect social media app. Like it's the way they designed the algorithm, and like the way like you can just go viral on TikTok. It's crazy. Like it's better than Instagram. It's better than Twitter.
Agreed.
It's better than Tumblr. Like just the algorithm of it is like the perfect social media app. But Instagram did play a big part in just like me getting connected with like different art directors and editors and things like that. It definitely did play a big part for
There's a like TikTok's my biggest platform.
Yeah.
And there's a guy who popped up on my For You page twice named Samba Films. And he just was explaining that he shoots his own stuff pretty much by himself, and now we're gonna hire him for the brand, like, to do work, because I was blown away by the first video I saw of his, and I was like, there's no way this dude isn't huge.
Yeah.
I click on his profile, and he's like a pretty small creator. I'm like,
really?
Yeah, that's wrong. Like, he needs to be much bigger than he is. Yeah, so I'm gonna sit down with him. I think early next week, because I want to make like some sort of like promo video, and it was very similar style to you, of like just like crazy amount of emotion in his work. And I don't see that like that often. I don't know if it's like the way you guys are playing with like the lighting or something.
He can't tell you. He can't tell you.
Seriously, man, it's crazy.
Yeah, but yeah, that's also like the beauty of social media as well. But like as far as like capturing emotion in my work, I don't like when I go into a photo shoot, I don't go into it like, okay, I want to capture this. It kind of just like comes out as I'm shooting. So I recently did a shoot for Bernard James, a close friend of mine. He has a jewelry line, and with that shoot, it was for Valentine's Day, so we were working with like this young couple. But with that, it was like very easy to capture like the emotion and the intimacy. So that's why casting is also so important for shoots and things like that, especially like when you're working with more than one person. So like, for example, if I was doing a shoot for like Converse, and they were like, we really want to capture like a family dynamic, instead of us like going out and just finding random models, I'm like, can we just like scout a family? Because that emotion is already there. So you can't fake intimacy, you can't fake an emotion.
Do you think a big part of that also is like the people you're shooting, they have to be comfortable with you?
Yeah, they got to be comfortable with me.
Yeah, because if they're not, then
and that's another thing. Like when I shoot, I always make sure it's very comfortable for the subject, and it's a very intimate setting. So it's like I hate shooting with like when it's like tens of people around, when it's a ton of people, because like I feel like when you tell someone like, "Hey, I want to take photos of you," they automatically like tense up and think they gotta like act this way or act this way. So when I like just kind of like break down that wall, it's just like it's just gonna be like very, you know, calm and just like I just want to capture you. I don't want you to think too much about it. That's where that third wall of that person breaks down.
Yeah.
You kind of like just capture them in like their true essence and stuff.
Do you think that you'll do any form of like video in the future? Do you see yourself kind of exploring more of like what you might have inside of you, like talent wise?
Yeah, like I always say photography is kind of just like my foot in, but there's so much more I want to do. I definitely would love to direct like a short film one day. I'm actually working on a project with a close friend of mine where we're like tracing back our family footsteps.
Oh wow.
And with that, we're like putting together a short film. So I'm kind of like directing, co-directing it, and like we're collabing on that together. But actually, I'm gonna start very soon working on my first solo show, which is gonna be in Atlanta. So with that, I do want to do like a small short film, like with that. But yeah, like in the future, there's so much I want to do. I still want to design a hotel.
It's funny that like came back. So like you've like reignited your passion.
Yeah,
there?
I love interior design. I love architecture still, and I just love like just nice places. Like just like the world is so beautiful.
Do you anticipate traveling before you do it?
Like I want to travel everywhere. Like I want to go everywhere, literally. But yeah, there's so much I want to do. Like I want to design a fashion show set one day. Like I was always amazed.
You can do ours. You want?
I was always amazed by by Alexander McQueen, his fashion shows. So there's one where it was, I forget the name of this fashion show, but there was like a glass cage and there was a model on the inside, but there was like butterflies, like tons of butterflies flying around on the inside. It's so, and then like at the end, like the glass fell and the butterflies like flew out. It was so crazy.
That's crazy.
But yeah, like I was always amazed by just like different fashion show sets. And like when I go in like certain stores like Marni or Acne, like just the way this, or Bottega, the one in Soho, the way the store is designed is kind of just like crazy.
It's like crazy. An experience within itself. Yeah. Because like one of the things I always say to Sean, or just when I'm speaking about the brand on social media, is like, the way people feel when they're like in your space or experiencing your brand is like something that you should be putting a lot of attention into. And I think that there are people that miss that from like a design standpoint of like every touch point you have with a person should leave them with feeling something. Yeah. You know?
And I feel like New York taught me a lot about that because I feel like there's so many curated spaces here than there is in Atlanta. Like, for example, like restaurants. Like, restaurants here are, like, curated for, like, a certain vibe and feel. In Atlanta, it's just like, okay, this is the food. Like, it could be a hole-in-the-wall restaurant, but, like, the food is amazing. Yeah. But, like, in New York, it's, like, an actual experience with the food or, like, you know, things like that. So, yeah, it just taught me to value the experience and, like, curate different experiences.
Yeah. I feel like in New York, there's just so many restaurants, so many stores that you have to do something different in order
to stand out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's just so much culture too. Like, are you amazed or like intrigued by any specific culture? Like for me, the Japanese and like their attention to detail is amazing.
When I was a kid, just like not even just Japanese, but like just Oriental in general. Like when I was a kid, I was like always obsessed with like China, like just the art and like Japan, and I want to go to Tokyo so bad.
Same.
But like just like the attention to detail, how you said, and just like the architecture there, and it's crazy. It's crazy.
Hotel in Japan. Maybe that's in the future for you.
Japan's been on my list of like I have to just go visit and just observe the like everything around me for so long. It's crazy. So you were recently nominated to the Forbes list.
Yes.
30 under 30. I want you to talk about that from like the point you knew. I'm sure telling your mom. I mean, there's got to be like emotion there.
So so a few months before it came out, in October, I guess this is when they were nominating people. An editor at Forbes who's like, I know him. So he DM'd me on Instagram. He was like, hey, like, people are nominating you for Forbes 30 under 30. I was like, what the fuck are you talking
Is this a real account?
Right, like I was like, first of all, I didn't even know you work for Forbes. But yeah, he was like, people are nominating you for Forbes 30 under 30. I was like, who is nominating me? And he was like, the community is really behind you. Like, I would like that kind of like touched me. I'm like, because sometimes like when you're like building your career, sometimes you feel lonely in it, but you forget how much support that you have behind you. So he was like, yeah, people are nominating you. He was like, I'm going to send you this Google Doc for you to fill out just in case you get picked. So I was like, okay. So I filled it out, sent it to him. Didn't hear nothing for like 2 months. And then December 1st, I woke up and I don't know why. I checked Instagram and I checked my friend Eric's story. And he also was named on Forbes 30 under 30. And he was like, he posted something on his story. He was like, y'all, I gotta tell y'all something. It was like on his close friends. He was like, y'all, I gotta tell y'all something. Like, this is crazy. I was like, I thought about Forbes 30 under 30, but I was like, I don't know, it haven't come out yet. Cause I was like Googling it, like just to see if it had came out like a few days before. So I was like, okay. So I checked my email and it said, congratulations on Forbes 30 under 30. And shit. I was like, went into shock. I started crying because I'm like, damn, all the sacrifices that I have made in the past year, like, paid off. Like, this isn't the final step, but like, this is like a part of my journey. Like, Forbes 30 under 30 at 21, like, that's crazy,
dude.
It's like
that's insane.
A serious amount of validation.
Yeah. So this is the first thing. I think I just like sat there and like cried for like 10 minutes. And then I think I texted my sister or my mom and I was like, I'm on Forbes 30 under 30. And it was like, my mom, she did not know what it was. My sister, she was like, oh my God, baby, I'm so proud of you. Like, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And then when I got around to telling my dad, I was like, Dad, I'm on Forbes 30 under 30. He did not know what it was. He was like, what? That means you hit $1 million? I was like, what? I was like,
I wish.
I was like, not yet. But I was like, yeah. But I was like, it was just crazy. And I like just the amount of support I got, it was like insane. And then I remember like literally a year before I had tweeted, I was like, I'm going to be on Forbes 30 under 30. And a year later, I was on Forbes 30 under 30.
Are you a believer in like manifestation?
I'm a
Do you
very
have a journal?
Yeah. So I kind of like fell off. I don't know. I feel like as I get so busy, I kind of just like forget. But that's something I really do want to go back to, just like writing down things I want in life.
Yeah.
Cause I like for the past 2 years, I was doing that heavy, and like I would go back and I'll be like, I did that, did that. So it's kind of like reassuring that I'm on the right path in life, but I am a very big believer in manifestation and just like speaking things into existence. That's why I always say speak growth and prosperity into things instead of speaking like death and bad energy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I just recently got into, I was a big skeptic of like the manifestation thing. And then almost probably like 13, 14 months ago, I started I got one of those manifestation journal things, started writing stuff down. And then like, I mean, whether it's coincidence or not, things just started hitting like around one after another, like falling into place. And like you look back and you're like, well, what did I really even change? Because like I've always worked hard, whatever, and then I just started writing it down. Writing it down, and it's like, all right, well, it could be, but then like maybe not. But why is it happening?
Right,
you know?
Right. And that's another thing. Like I feel like a lot of people, like when they're trying to manifest things, they think they could just write it down and it'll come true. But like you have to continuously work towards it. You know?
Yeah. It's almost like writing it down is like. It goes into the back of your mind and you don't forget about it. Yeah. Whereas like if you don't, who knows if you'll remember.
Right.
That's I mean, I'm a huge I'm a firm believer now.
Yeah.
So after Forbes, the article comes out. Does anything change? Do you get more work? How does it work?
So it's still fairly it came out 2 months ago. So
yeah, he's very recent.
Okay.
So I did notice a lot more eyes on me in my work, which is why me putting together my first debut solo show is so nervous to me because I'm like, it's so many fucking eyes on me now. It's like, okay, what is he gonna do? Like,
Yeah.
Like the fact that I'm considered a trailblazer in my industry, like I'm like, yo, I'm just a kid from Atlanta.
There's a weight on your shoulders.
Right.
a little bit.
It's a very big weight on my shoulder, but I have to tell myself like you have to like tone all of that out and just like create what makes you happy. But yeah, it's a lot more eyes on me. I have gotten a lot more opportunities, and just like me working with my agent, it's kind of just like something is growing. Yeah.
Would you, now I understand why you're doing the solo show in Atlanta, but would you bring it to New York at all?
That's the plan.
I mean, I would like to see it.
That's the plan.
Fine.
So I want to bring it to New York after I do it.
That'd be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, there's so much expectation after like something like that drops on yourself that you're like, oh, the next thing I do has to be crazy. Like this article just came out. I was just nominated for Forbes. Like, and I imagine there's so much pressure, but at some point you just have to like almost put it to the side and be like, I can't like try to be different than who I am.
Right.
Because that's where I got because of who I am.
Yeah, it's like almost you feel like you got to live up to the expectation of being on Forbes 30 under 30, but it's like you've already did that.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah. I the way I look at pressure like that is like somebody's going to be given that pressure. So like, why not be you? Or like when you're thinking about, for me and from a business sense, it's like somebody's going to make $1 billion business. Like why not have it be me?
Right.
Right. So it's going to get done. And the other thing is, I just like lost my train of thought. I don't know. I was like, yeah, shoot. I was like thinking too far ahead and I lost it, but that's on me.
Yeah.
So I guess to kind of wrap up, what does the future of Kendall Bessent look like?
I want to do everything. There's so much I want to do. So like when people ask me like what's goals or in my career, like of course I want, I want a Vogue cover. Of course I want to photograph like Beyonce and Solange. Like those are like the top of my list. Like when I get the Beyonce cover or a Solange cover, I'll be like, okay, like I'm doing this shit. But there's not just one thing. There's so many. Like when people ask me like, what do I see my career going? It's not just photography. I always say I want to have a career similar to that of like Melina Masukis, who's a creative director, a photographer. She's into fashion. She's into this. She's into that. So I really admire like how her career was like structured, like where she's just doing everything that she's interested in. Or even like Kanye. Like Kanye, he started off as a rapper, but he did fashion, he did architecture, he did this, he did that.
I'll never forget he was on, I think it's Charlemagne, like his podcast or whatever. Yeah. And Charlemagne like was shitting on him for trying to go into fashion. Right. And Kanye was literally sitting there like, all right, like watch me. Like he wouldn't even pay attention to Charlemagne. He was like, I'm gonna do it.
Now Yeezy is a $1 billion company.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's so I feel like well, I don't feel like it. I am a true artist. Like I'm an artist. So there's so much I want to do. And I know that anything that I pursue, I'm going to do my best in.
Yeah.
You don't want to be put in a box.
I don't want to be boxed in. Yeah.
You want, different boxes you can go in and out of.
Right.
The thought that I had lost like previously, I was going to ask, do you notice or have you noticed at all like the people you grew up with kind of either any form of like jealousy or feeling as though they want you to fail like once you start to receive some success?
If that was the case, I probably wouldn't know because like growing up, I didn't really keep a large group of people around me. Like I had my close friends. So my close friends have been my friends since I was middle school, high school. So like I've always just like surrounded myself by people who love and support me, but like people who weren't like necessarily my close friends. From the looks of it, they support me, but I know sometimes that's not always the case with people. So I don't really pay attention to that, but I always know, like my mom, she always taught me like, you're like at this point in life, you gotta like, just pay attention to who you have around you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's smart. Like, I mean, that's like really good parenting on her part because especially especially in an industry like a creative industry, I feel like there's so many people that are gonna look to take from you and give literally nothing in return.
So like, yeah, even like being in the industry and being a black creative in the industry, you deal with a lot. But it just kind of taught me like you gotta have strong skin, you gotta have determination, and you can't honestly give a fuck what people say.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'm so headstrong to like just doing. I've always been that way, even like through high school and like middle school, like just being so determined and like tunnel vision to what I want to do. I never really cared about like outside opinions. Yeah.
What are you hoping to incorporate more into your work in the future? Like, you've done so much for the black community, which you undoubtedly will continue to do. Do you have any anticipation to like focus on other things?
I don't know. That's a hard question.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely a lot of things I want to play with, but I feel like my focus will always be highlighting my community. It'll just be highlighting them on a bigger platform.
Yep.
Like, for example, like I want to shoot a campaign for Gucci, or I want to shoot a campaign for Acne, or like brands that I like really want to work with. So that I'll just be using their platform to highlight my people in a bigger way.
I feel like in that same like thought, like you could do something crazy with Alton Mason.
I would love to photo. So I met him. I met him like in passing at Afropunk in Atlanta.
Yeah,
it was so crazy because me and my friend Braylon, we were there. And I turned around. I was like, wait, is that Alton Mason? And he was like dancing through the crowd. Because in Atlanta, it's not a very big creative community, or people not really tapped into like the modeling industry. But I knew who he was. And he was like dancing through the crowd like he's Michael Jackson. I was like, wait, is that Alton Mason? I was
he's so good at dancing.
He's so good at dancing. And I remember I went up to him. I was like, wait, can I photograph you? He was like, I'll be back. But like he never came back. I was like, okay, it's cool. But I know for sure I'm going to photograph him. Yeah.
There's another black creative out of Atlanta that I follow. His name's Blue Boy. I don't know.
Blue Boy, I do know him.
You know him?
I don't know him personally, but I do know him.
I feel like, you know, with him in the fashion and stuff, like you two could link up and do cool stuff too. Because he's done some crazy stuff. Like has his own Sprite can, like all sorts of stuff.
That would be fire. I can see that. We gotta do that.
I'm just planting seeds over here for you.
It's like incorporating Atlanta too. It's just perfect.
And that's always something I love to do. Is just like going back home and like scouting and working with the people who I built my career with. So like I've told everyone this. Like my dream job is a Gucci campaign, but I want to shoot it in Atlanta because I want to scout the people who I'm cool with there. Like I want to put my brother in. I want to put my close friends, like my friend Rashad, who I basically built my entire portfolio starting off with. I was like, I want to put you in a Gucci campaign because he's a model, but I feel like a lot of times people don't pay attention to the scene in Atlanta, and although it's up and coming, people don't really pay attention to it. So I was like, I just want to put more eyes on the people who, you know, I grew up with.
Yeah, says a lot about you too.
Yeah.
Like, you're not selfish in your own
not
right.
at all.
You want your people around you to come up with you.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's the beauty of it. Like, and even like, just like growing up, I've always had like tons of nephews and nieces because I'm the youngest of all my siblings, and like little cousins. So I always know that they're looking at me as like an example.
Yeah.
And the fact that I'm the first one in my family to kind of just like take the art path and like move away, but like I'm working to actively show them like you don't have to, like, because I feel like growing up, especially in the black community, like we're either pushed to like law school, doctors, or like football and just like sports. But like although I did play sports as a kid, I never enjoyed it. I've always wanted art. So it's kind of just like me showing them like there's another way.
Yeah.
Like than to like, you know, just do like follow your heart, follow your, you know.
And a lot of the times in sports, it's like almost as if like art is like frowned upon.
Right.
You know? It's just like
it's so weird.
There's
it
no
is.
like.
And I feel like that comes from like a lot of people feeling like art isn't a viable career, because even I felt like that first. But I'm also the person who was like, I'm gonna do this even like I knew the money would come. Like, I never did photography for the money. It wasn't until I got into college or even now that I'm figuring out how much you can actually make from this career. But yeah, it was never about the money. It was always just about me following my heart and just being passionate in what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems, yeah. I mean, like, just the fact that you're showing people that art is viable, like, because, you know, if it weren't you, like, there's probably a subset of the population that wouldn't know you could make it as an artist.
Right.
So then they're stuck in the same cycle you broke out of, pretty much, of, like, law school, like, changing your degree, like, 3 times, like, that whole thing, you know?
Yeah.
And there's no, you know, you can't Google, like, how much does a creative photographer make.
Right.
Like, it varies so much, whereas, like, a
And
lawyer and stuff.
That's the thing. There's no limit to how much you can make or accomplish in this career.
Exactly.
And that's the fun part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think part of it that I've noticed is, like, our parents, while they're trying to raise us the best way possible, they're very much raising us like their parents raised them.
Yeah.
And in a time when social media didn't exist and all of that, and social media and, like, how connected our generations are opens up so many more doors for creatives to make money that our parents didn't know about. They don't know about.
It shows you it shows you a bigger world, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm just, like, so grateful that my mom was the kind of mom where she was like, she supported me no matter what I wanted to do. Like, I could have been like, Mom, I want to be a rapper even though I can't rap. She would have been like, that's my baby, right? Right. But yeah, like, she always supported me in everything I wanted to do. And I've just, like, my career and, like, everything I accomplished, I always give thanks to her, because I literally would not be a photographer like where I'm at today without my mom.
Do you know Connor McKnight?
Connor McKnight.
He is a fashion designer here in the city. He very much focuses on, like, the history of like Black community and that in his work. I feel like you two should definitely link up. He was he's just recently featured on GQ.
Okay.
I went to one of his shows for last season.
Wow.
Yeah, his work, his clothing's also insane. I love his stuff.
This is fire.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah. I feel like you two would probably get on pretty well.
I gotta tell my agent about that.
But yeah, well, thank you for coming on, Kendall.
This is awesome.
It's been a blast.
Yeah. Thank y'all for having me.
Of course.
And hopefully we can work together in the future. That'd be sick.
Definitely.
If you want to plug any of your stuff.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, follow me on Instagram, Kendall Bessent, KendallBessent. That's my Instagram, my website, and my Twitter is KenGotrich, Ken Got Rich. Yeah.
There you go.
And I'll link it all for him
cool.
as well. Yeah. But
Cool.
yeah, thank you so much.
Of
Yeah,
course.
thank you.
Thank y'all for having me.